Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. I'm Chris. Tonight's video is about Middle Eastern fragrances. Another video I have never done in the 2 years I've had my YouTube channel. And this is actually a request video. I've been waiting a long time to do it. And when I think of Middle Eastern fragrances, I think of very strong fragrances that are very woody, mostly oudi, have a strong musk and deep florals. And many of the fragrances I will be talking about tonight do fit in that category. A few, however, are a little bit different, a little bit unique. And I'm going to call this Middle Eastern gems because I know every single fragrance in here is a gem to somebody, even though they may not be gems for me. There are about a handful of fragrances in here that I find absolute gems. Some of them you have seen me talk about before, and I'm like a broken record. But when you're good, you're good. And if my counting is correct, I grabbed 12 fragrances, and with that, let's get started. So the first thing I want to say is that this room smells amazing. I just filmed my amber perfume video, and this room smells amazing. I can only imagine after I finish with this video, my room's gonna smell amazing and my neighbors down the hill will be able to smell my house with the door shut. Anyways, I have a lot of perfumes here that I've never spoken about. There are lots of reasons for that. Some of the reasons are, these aren't loves. Some of these are just not loves. Some of them I've spoken about before, and a few of them I actually like a lot, and I'm excited to talk about for the first time. So I'm just going to grab and go. So I think the first one I'm going to grab is one by Borouj, and this is called Gravity. I would describe this as a sweet, jammy, syrupy rose with oud mixed in a salty musk. This one puts you in the ballpark. I do not believe that this one is a dupe at all or an impression, but it puts you in the ballpark of Deluxe by Tiziana Terenzi. It's similar, but there are some differences. This is a lot stronger. This one has a stronger musk. It's slightly more salty. There's no coffee note. This one is a powerhouse. The two Borouges that I have tonight, they're phenomenally strong and long lasting. I don't know the notes. I will put them up on the screen, but that gives you an idea of what this smells like. It's like a cousin. I would call it a cousin of Deluxe. I don't have Deluxe anymore. I decluttered that because it was too similar to Intense Cafe, and I decluttered Intense Cafe because it's too similar to Gentle Fluidity Gold by MFK. I'm trying to clean out my fragrances and get rid of some redundancy. This is different enough that I can see it being a part of my collection, and it's a like, not a love. It's very, very strong. This isn't really my personality. When I want to be vampy and bold, I would definitely pull for this one. So the next one I think I'll grab is one called Aurum by Ajmal, I believe. And when I tried this for the first time, this was recommended to me by someone over on Instagram. When I tried this, it was very similar to something I had smelled before, but again, I don't think this is a dupe of anything. And I figured out what it was. I would say this is like 60% Lady Million by Paco Rabanne mixed with a very fancy dryer sheet, like a nice raspberry fruity dryer sheet. Yeah, so the opening is just harsh, is a little bit harsh for 10 seconds, but then it really kind of settles down into something very pretty and pleasant. I absolutely get a fruity sweetness, a dryer sheet fruity sweetness with that Lady Million in the background. So there's raspberry. I know there's some sort of white flower in here. I would guess probably jasmine, maybe orange blossom, a delicate powderiness, and it gets a little bit more woody in the dry down. There's no oud in here, or at least if there's oud, I don't pick it up as a traditional oud. It's just a little bit dry and woody. In addition to that little bit of powderiness. And it does have that Middle Eastern musk, but unlike a lot of fragrances, the musk here is not in your face and overpowering. So I would call this pretty. This is a very pretty perfume, and I want to say I paid around $20 for this perfume, so a really good deal. This is probably, okay, this is 75 mLs. I think it's a fantastic deal with a little bit of gold sparkles in there. Next two up, there's a fragrance I adore and a fragrance I do not like at all. So let's do the bad first. So this one was a blind buy, and it was a blind buy failure. And it wasn't a devastating blind buy because this was very cheap. I want to say like 25 bucks for a huge bottle. And this is called Sheikh the Luxe Edition. Very heavy bottle. The bottle's great, it's super heavy. But this is just not me. And I can see many, many people liking it. I was drawn to the caramel note in here. I say caramel and caramel, so work with me. But it's basically one of these oud, saffron, rose concoctions, and the oud in here is the oud I do not like. I cannot take it. It's very strong and super screechy. It's loud, it's harsh, it's artificial. That does die down just a bit, but I just cannot get into this fragrance because of that. And again, I can see many, many people enjoying it, but it has that oud that I do not care for. I do find it a little bit more pleasant, like I've sprayed it on a sweater and then 8 hours later come back to it and, you know, given it a little test sniff and thought, this isn't terrible, but it still isn't wonderful. It's not really a like or a love, which is too bad because it's a great deal. Because if you like it, it's phenomenal because of the price. And it's just too strong for me. The other one was a gift from my lovely friend who used to work with me. She went over to the Middle East over the summer and brought this back for me, so I will always love this. And fortunately, I love the perfume too. It is called Bint Hooran. And this bottle, I don't know if you can tell, this bottle is very heavy. It's quite beautiful. It's very substantial. And it's this beautiful, it's like this ombre golden black bottle. It's absolutely stunning. So the packaging is stunning. And this fragrance, when I spray it, reminds me of, and again, I don't think this is a dupe of anything, but it does remind me of something. And that something is closest to Good Girl. Now, if you're new here, I never liked Good Girl. I don't like Good Girl at all. I have two flankers that I actually enjoy. I have Good Girl Supreme and I have Good Girl Légère. And this reminds me of one of those flankers, so much so that I kind of did a side-by-side test. This reminds me the most of Good Girl Légère. It has a little bit of fruitiness to it, but not enough fruitiness to be similar to Good Girl Supreme, which is a very fruity version of Carolina Herrera Good Girl. So this is white flowers, vanilla, tonka, almond, and musk. And it just doesn't have that scratchiness, that terrible, fakey sweetness that I do not like in Carolina Herrera Good Girl. This remains in the pretty zone. It's so much better than Carolina Herrera, and I don't think this is a dupe or an impression because it's very different, but it's in the ballpark. So a lighter, fresher, more playful version of Carolina Herrera Légère, and I actually really, really like this. This is very, very pretty. Oh, and performance is great. This isn't a beast. I would say it's very good. So at least like 6 to 8 hours and has a nice scent bubble. A definite Middle Eastern gem, in my opinion. All right, so the next fragrance was a blind buy, and I purchased it because it was very inexpensive, and another YouTuber recommended this to me a long, long time ago, like over a year ago. I got it, sprayed it once, and realized, yeah, I probably wouldn't be keeping it because it just reminded me too much of some other things. And I think it's a decent fragrance. It definitely could be a gem for some people, but it reminds me too much of other things that either I don't like or I already have. And that is, well, let's get to the fragrance, Chris. It is Dirham by Wardi. It still even has the tag on it. I will be decluttering this, giving it away, or selling it. I haven't figured out. It's been in its box for over a year since I tried it. This to me is a cross between Good Girl, Delina exclusive, and La Vie Belle with a splash of Miss Dior in the background or in the base. So kind of a mixture of a lot of popular fragrances. So I think it's definitely a gem for lots of people. I want to say I paid around $30. Again, I bought this long, long ago. It's a fruity, syrupy, sweet floral. And the flower that I get the most here is, let me spray it again. I want to say rose. Let me refresh my memory. Yeah, I guess I would say rose. Maybe there's lychee in here too. But it just has that very similar DNA of a lot of those perfumes I just talked about. It's pretty. I definitely recognize the Good Girl DNA, but the good kind of Good Girl, not the terrible Good Girl that I don't like. But it has that similar flower, sweet, tonka thing going on. And I think the one time I wore it, I was surprised that it wasn't a powerhouse. I would say like maybe mild to moderate in longevity with a musk in the background. So it's a noticeable musk, but not one that's suffocating and in your face. Let's see, the next one I'm going to grab one of my favorites that I've talked about a million gajillion times. This made my smell expensive on a budget. It's one of the best Middle Eastern fragrances definitely I've ever smelled, and this is Qasamat Rasana by Rasasi. This is a bright citrusy amber with a Middle Eastern flair. I've said many, many times this is like the Middle Eastern version of something that smells similar to Aventus. It has a very bright opening. There's bright, punchy citruses up at the top, very mouth-watering, lemon, apple, bergamot, but there's definitely a spiciness that offsets kind of some of those brighter notes. There's cypriol oil, which is earthy, it's spicy, it's a little bit woody. There's an amber in here. The amber is clean, it's not suffocating, it's a clean amber. It's a light amber. Some ambers are just syrupy, sweet, and thick. Amber in here is light, has a strong musk. The musk comes out more in the background, and this is a powerhouse. This will last you all day. You spray this 5 or 6 times, it's gonna last you 8 to 10 hours. Major powerhouse. I love the bottle, is absolutely beautiful. It's a gorgeous bottle. Some of the Middle Eastern bottles aren't well made. They're plastic and kind of fall apart. This one is gorgeous, a showpiece, and love it. So next I'm gonna do kind of like the good, bad, good sandwich. I'm gonna start off with a fragrance that is very polarizing, and I know it is a gem for many people. One of my favorite YouTubers loves this perfume. It was a blind buy for me, and it was very, very affordable. So it was not a successful blind buy. Again, not devastating because it was not that expensive. I have definitely slowed down on my blind buying because I had a lot of unsuccessful blind buys. Many of them were on the expensive side. So I have really slowed down my blind buying, and I absolutely do not blind buy anything expensive. No way. I get a sample or I haul my rear end into a store, whether or not it's close or not, to give it a test. So anyways, Opulent Musk by Lattafa, very, very polarizing. It is loved by many. And then for people like me, it's not a hate, but oh my gosh, it went straight to right there, that part of my brain, the cribriform plate. It is just not for me. There's something about it that's really strong. So it's like the saffron, woody, ambery musk. Some people think that this has a Baccarat 540 vibe, and I get that a little bit. I get that. Maybe it's the saffron, but that's where it stops. Baccarat 540 is a masterpiece. I love it. I'm on my 2nd bottle. Maybe one day I'll get sick of it, but these two smell nothing alike in my opinion. But if you love this one, how wonderful is that? Because I think this was like literally in the $20 to $30 range. So it only took me a couple wears to know it just wasn't for me. I already have Baccarat 540 and a few other fragrances that are in the ballpark. So I don't need something else, but definitely could be, and I know it is a Middle Eastern gem for some. And if I didn't say already, it's just, to me, it comes off very, very synthetic. So in the end, it's just too much synthetic stuff going on for me to love. So now we're gonna go to a fragrance that I've had since before my YouTube channel. It was all the rage about 2 years ago. Everybody was talking about it, then it died down. Nobody talks about it anymore, except my girl Sharita. I'm so glad she showed this a couple weeks ago. This is a great fragrance. It is a Middle Eastern gem in my opinion. It is a Middle Eastern gem for those who like sweet fragrances and gourmands, and it's Casablanca. This is a fruity caramel amber. So it has apples and grapes. Sometimes it smells like a pear to me, but the fruits are apples and grapes. So it has a very sweet, syrupy, fruity opening. There's caramel in here, a little bit of patchouli, sweet amber. And again, I'll repeat, it's very sweet. It's a sweet, fruity, caramel, woody patchouli fragrance that is a bomb, at least on me. Oh my gosh, the first time I tested this out, I sprayed it on my daughter. She's always up for anything. And I sprayed it on her arm once. It was in the summer, and I could still smell it like 10 to 12 hours later. So on me and my guinea pig daughter, this lasts forever. And I do think it is a sweet, fruity, caramel Middle Eastern gem. Now we're gonna go to one that I know some people love. I know this because I see them over on Instagram rave about it. Another blind buy. It was a blind buy because it was like 17 bucks on Joma Shop. Enormous fragrance. It's like 3 ounces, very, very heavy, very substantial bottle. And this is called, I know I'm gonna mispronounce it, Qaa'ed by Lattafa. I really wanted to love this, and when I looked up the notes were like, oh, this is me. I'm gonna love it. So the notes are vanilla, cinnamon, amber, and saffron, and definitely leather. and woods. Boy, I wanted to love it, but this is that, this is that very, very sharp, honest to God, honest to goodness, it went straight to my brain again. Very, very sharp, screechy in your face, and I want to say kind of a synthetic woody note. There has to be oud in here, and the leather is not smooth, it's not soft, it's sharp. So a sharp in your face leather, a sharp in your face screechy artificial oud. I cannot get past it. I know it gets better in the dry down, it gets sweeter, you know, the vanilla and cinnamon comes out. I cannot live through the beginning and the middle to get to the end. So I was, so sad. I wanted to love this. Who doesn't want to love a $17 perfume in a substantial bottle that's 3 ounces? Unfortunately, I did not. So this one will be decluttered or being given away. And another one is one that I've talked about before. This made, I think, my very first Smell Expensive on a Budget, which was, it was horrible. Do not watch that. I cringe every time I see my old videos. But it made that first one. This was an accidental buy for me. I bought this. This is Pure Tiffany by Afnan. I accidentally bought this way before the hype, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best blind buy ever. I ordered this from fragrancebuy.ca. I had 4 perfumes in my cart. You need 5 to get free shipping. And I was like, let's just see what it is. I went alphabetically. I started with the A's. And so this was Afnan. I didn't have to go very far. I saw the bottle. It was like 30 bucks. I'm like, sure, put it in my cart. And I was thrilled. This is one of the best successful blind buys for me. But again, somebody's treasure is another person's trash. This is not gonna be for everybody, but this is definitely very, very pretty, and I enjoy this. So why do I enjoy this? This is a sweet, watery, musky, ambery floral. So this is not that strong, woody, rose, oudi combination. The flowers in here are very soft. They're watery flowers. So I'm talking about like lotus, water lily. There's a little bit of jasmine, a little bit of rose. There's lychee in here, probably a little bit of pear. There's definitely musk. I know there's caramel, so a little bit of sweetness. The musk kind of blends really nicely with these delicate, watery flowers. This one also in the beginning has a nice freshness. It's a little bit peppy, and this has ginger in it, and maybe pink pepper. So yeah, ginger, pink pepper. Just a real pretty perfume. This is like night to day. I can see people wearing this going out and wearing all black. This is also the fragrance that I would wear if it was in the summertime and I was wearing a pretty sundress and I was going out to lunch or brunch. So I think this is very versatile. Again, $30. And I've seen this fragrance come and go because it's just not for everybody, but it's absolutely a Middle Eastern gem for me. I've got 3 more and then I'll call it a day. It is a Friday night. That's how cool I am. I'm filming on a Friday night. And it is Grand Central Station here. I have 2 teenagers, 3 dogs, and a husband who is being so kind and cooking for me, but I can hear him clanging the dishes around in the back. So bear with me for the last 3. So the next one is one I just talked about in the video I did last week. It is Smell Like a Spa, or fragrances that remind me of a spa or are very spa-like in their composition. And this is called Modernity, and this is another one by Borouj. This one reminds me of a very fancy shampoo or body product or spa-like product that I would imagine I would smell in a very fancy or a luxury resort in Dubai. I've never been to Dubai. In my imagination, the body products at a swanky resort would smell like this. So I would call this an ambery, woody floral. So this one is one of those fragrances where the woods are very strong, but it's not oudi. But it definitely has a woody base, and it has florals in here. The florals are kind of deep and dark, and I definitely get a dark, fruity sweetness, very subtle. I would call it like plum. Everything's kind of swimming around in a bed of amber, and just like most Middle Eastern fragrances, this has a lot of musk in it. So I also get a little bit of citruses, I forgot. So I think maybe a mandarin. I would say mandarin or an orange. Nah, I would go with mandarin. So boy, oh boy, oh boy, one of the strongest ones in the bunch. I remember when I was first testing this, I put it on a blotter. I could smell that blotter in the next room the next day. One of the strongest fragrances I own, Modernity. Now the last 2 were PR given to me long ago. I want to say almost a year ago. They're by Orientica, and Orientica just kind of blasted a bunch of people, particularly over on Instagram, with these two fragrances. So I was it was just too much at once. So I just kind of put them to the side. I did test them. One of them is a good perfume. I think it's very good, and I do think it is an impression. The other one is an original that I absolutely love. I was beyond impressed, shocked how good this perfume is, because like I said, some of these Middle Eastern fragrances are just too much for me. Just too much. I dislike more than I like. So let's start with the first one. This one is called Romantic. It's in a very big, heavy bottle. The bottle's heavy. The bottle design isn't my favorite. I would say, even though it is a hefty bottle, I don't know, the bottle design isn't my favorite. It's okay, not my favorite. But this one, when you spray it, I would say this is 60% Delina, 30% Atomic Rose, and then 10% of something else. It's not a 100% dupe of anything, but it definitely is super, super similar to those fragrances. So if you are on a budget and you have tried Delina exclusive Atomic Rose, and you adore those fragrances, but they are just beyond your budget, I will say that this is a very good alternative. And I want to say, I don't remember the price. I want to say it's somewhere between $80 and $100. I'll look it up. But if that's in your budget, this is a really good alternative for the fragrances that I just talked about. For Delina and Atomic Rose, I will say that this does not have any of that sharpness, that rhubarb green sharpness that is in Delina and a lot of people do not like. So if you loved Delina but didn't like the sharpness and you really like Atomic Rose, this would be a great, great substitution. And the last one is called Exotic. It has one of my favorite notes, coconut, and it's a gourmand coconut. This is a creamy, vanillic coconut tropical sandalwood. Let me spray it. So again, this doesn't remind me of any particular fragrance in general, so I think it's an original creation. I don't think it's an inspiration or a dupe of anything. It's a tropical coconut that has some florals, but it's not sunscreeny. It does not go into that sunscreeny vibe that many of you do not like. And honestly, I'm kind of over the sunscreen vibe. What I get more is fruit. So I get more fruitiness. I don't really get any florals, and that's probably why it doesn't smell very sunscreeny. So I get more fruits, definitely get coconut, definitely get like a creamy sandalwood, and I think the coconut and the sandalwood go really nicely. The musk is light, and it comes off as refreshing because you have those fruits in there. So it's like a fruity, refreshing musk with coconut and sandalwood. So it is gourmand. It doesn't smell foodie, but I would definitely put it in the gourmand department because it's so it's like a milky, vanillic coconut. Fruity, milky, vanillic coconut with musk and sandalwood. So this one I have only tested a couple of times. I have an idea. I think it's going to be very, very strong. When I did test it, I thought the performance was very good. Cannot wait to wear it in the summertime. So that was it, my Middle Eastern gems. They're not all gems for me. I don't love all of them, but I do think in the right hands, many of these that didn't work out for me or weren't up my alley could be gems for you. And I'm glad I finally got to do this video after meaning to do it for probably a year. So thank you to the few people who requested this video. And if you guys out there have any request videos, let me know in the comments and I will add it to my list. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed your time with me, and with that, I'll see you on the next one.